The Second Circuit Court of Appeals has ruled that the bulk collection and storage of millions of Americans' phone records is illegal. Good news when it comes to your privacy. At issue right now is Section 215 of the Patriot Act, and the legal and philosophical justification or underpinning for how the government does its collection practice when it comes to various forms of data. And at least one of them now will be relatively more restricted than it has over the past 14 years or so. Now, overall, the Obama administration previously has argued that the phone records program that is being affected by today's court judgment meets the legal standard of information that is relevant to an authorized investigation. In the government's view, a database of every phone call in the U.S. provides a wealth of information that helps the government conduct terrorism investigations. And I don't doubt that that is on some level true. But it also provides a lot of other things like unauthorized and illegal looks into what average Americans are doing when they make phone calls that they are constitutionally allowed to make without being spied on by the NSA.
So let me jump in and just say that under the Obama administration's rationale, logic, they think that we're all under investigation. We are all always, because the NSA program doesn't really deal with probable cause, doesn't deal with warrants. They deal with every single U.S. citizen, every single U.S. non-citizen. Anyone who's on this land is having their email or their emails and their phone conversations collected indiscriminately.
Just as standard practice.
So we're all part of an investigation, even if we have done nothing wrong.
Yeah. Yes, and that's wrong because, pardon my legalese here, jargon, but that's wrong because this is the fucking United States. That's why that's wrong. Okay. Sorry.
Yeah, but Jimmy, this could make us a little bit safer at some point in the indeterminate future. And we do value our safety. Of course, we value our security. We hate when America is hit by a terrorist attack, but we also hate when our constitutional rights are trampled by the government without even notifying the American people, or in many cases, our elected representatives, that the trampling is even going on. And remember that the only reason we even knew about this program in the first place is because of Edward Snowden and the revelations he made into the day-by-day collection practices of the NSA.
So Laura Poitras and Glenn Greenwald actually bring up something really, really important when it comes to the issue of national security and whether or not these wiretaps and the collection of our data keeps us safe. Think about it this way. When you are indiscriminately collecting data on every single person in the United States, you have this wealth of information, intel, that is virtually useless because the vast majority of Americans aren't doing anything wrong. So if you have all this data, right, you have an abundance of it, it's much more difficult to sift through it and figure out whether or not someone is actually a terroristic threat. And it's amazing because when it comes to those who support the spying, they'll always say, well, this is the spying that's keeping us safe. Like, they always say that when it's convenient for them. It's keeping us safe. And then when you deal with another issue, be it Iran or ISIS, oh my God, the United States is not safe. They're an imminent threat. We all need to be afraid. So which one is it? Are you guys keeping us safe with all the spying you're doing? You know, I can't.
We're perfectly safe, balanced on a tightrope above a lava-filled pool with sharp spikes. Effectively, at all times.
It may. I'll give the government the benefit of the doubt. Let's say it does keep us safer. Well, as John F. Kennedy said, what is the use of saving our country if we don't also save our values along with it? So if we lose our values and save our country, we've lost our country anyway.
That's such a good quote.
And the distinction between our countries and other countries that conservatives feel that they have to make every time they appear on a cable news show. So I do want to read what the court actually said, how they struck down this particular section, Section 215. They said that while the relevant standard used in Section 215 gives the government broad latitude, the court held, it's not unlimited. The court noted that past court rulings approved broad subpoenas have all been bounded either by the facts of the investigation or by a finite time limitation. That's in contrast to the completely open-ended character of the NSA's phone records program up until today. Now, we do have a statement by a Democrat and a Republican who are working to shut down this provision of the Patriot Act since it was found out a couple of years ago. This is from Patrick Leahy and Mike Lee, saying the dragnet collection of Americans' phone records is unnecessary and ineffective. Now, a federal appellate court has found that the program is also illegal. Congress should not reauthorize a bulk collection program that the court has found to violate the law. And you should know that at least this section of the Patriot Act is up for possible renewal on, I believe, June 1st of this year. And so obviously very relevant that it's being struck down in advance of that. Because if it hadn't, that would be used as justification to continue the program going forward. And now, of course, understand that Striking this down does not mean that the government loses its ability to collect phone records, to tap the phone records. Even in one of the potential bills that would replace it, called the USA Freedom Act, to obtain data under this, the NSA would have to ask private companies for a narrow set of phone records that are involved in a particular case. The NSA would no longer hold the records itself. So it would still have the capacity to get the phone records. It would just have to have some justification that it has something remotely to do with an actual investigation or case, and then it couldn't hold on to them for the rest of time, which seems reasonable to me.
Isn't it unbelievable that the government has a hard time meeting that standard? That shouldn't be a difficult standard to meet. I think that it makes more sense if you believe that someone poses a threat, if there is probable cause, then you have the ability to obtain any record you want.
Yeah.
You shouldn't be able to indiscriminately target every single person in the United States.
Yeah.
It's
So why, I mean, if they can go through all of our phone records and all of our email, why can't they just go through our house? What? I don't understand. You're supposed to be secure.
I bet they think they can. Yeah, and also one other thing is, so many of the people, like we showed you from that quote, there was a Democrat and a Republican working against it, and certainly there are some libertarians who are against the sort of mass collection and storage of your data. But many conservatives seem to fall to the sort of arguments that Anna was talking about, that, you know, this is the only thing stopping us from being all blown apart simultaneously. But imagine, like, if you're afraid of the UN coming in and shutting down all the golf courses and shoving us all into hobbit homes or something, and you fantasize about armed resistance to the federal government with your militia, do you want them having a collection of all your phone calls so they can track when you were moving guns or who you sold your guns to or any of your movements? You don't want them to have that data either. So you might think, in the wake of this Second Circuit Court of Appeals striking down this mass collection storage of American cell phone records, that the Republicans might feel a little bit ashamed to continue pushing for it now that it's been shown to be illegal, in fact unconstitutional. That's not actually the case. And so our amazing producer, J.R. Jackson, has put together this great mashup of GOP senators fighting for the reauthorization of exactly this newly illegal section of the Patriot Act.
So what do you think about this NSA decision?
I'm very worried about it because I think we have to have the ability to monitor communications. It's pretty clear that 9/11 could have been prevented if we had known about some of the communications.
If this program had existed before 9/11, it is quite possible that we would have known that the 9/11 hijacker, Khalid al-Midhar, was living in San Diego.
They would likely have prevented 9/11.
The leader alluded to the fact that many looking back on pre-9/11 said, had we had the tools we have today, we might have stopped this attack.
This is the gap that contributed in part to our failure to stop the 9/11 attacks.
People seem to have forgotten 9/11, Mark.
What we should never forget is what happened here on the 11th of September of the year 2001.
In fact, those threats today are greater than they were on 9/11, and that's not my opinion.
We lost almost 3,000 people on 9/11.
And everyone in this room remembers where they were and what they were doing on that morning of the 11th of September of the year 2001.
Why was it necessary to enact the provisions of the Patriot Act after the attacks of 9/11-2001?
And you might identify the cell inside the United States that's on the verge of having another 9/11.
Fear that it's going to take something here to make them wake up, and I really sincerely hope that that is not the case. I hope we do it before that.
One day, I hope that I'm wrong, but one day there will be an attack that's successful. And the first question out of everyone's mouth is going to be, why didn't we know about it?
To hijack another airplane to blow up the Capitol.
9/11 was bad.
I agree with that.
This terrible atrocity of 9/11.
9/11.
I take us back to 9/11 and the attacks.
9/11.
Oh my
That
God,
is
amazing.
great.
I love that. JR's a guy.
Wow, that was fantastic.
So that might not have even been the most ridiculous part of that. Why do they feel the need, when talking about 9/11, to make up ways of referencing the date, the 11th of September, and the year 1000, 1000, and also 1? Like, that's not how humans speak. It's not 2001. It was 2001. You grew up and have lived in this country your entire life. You don't know how we reference years?
That was...
It's just, it's fake reverence. They don't actually feel this, like, deep
Well,
felt
I mean,
need
that's sure.
to
Looking back
revere
now
them.
in the year 21.5, that's how you feel.
That's how I feel. It's not how humans talk. And I hope that when people see that, they realize that they're being manipulated.
Right.
Oh, I'm sure they do. Oh, sure. Those
You think?
guys? Oh, they're
no, not them. I'm saying hopefully people watching.
Yeah,
know it.
sure.
Yeah.
Marco Rubio's constituency, they're very good bullshit detectors.
Yeah, well, you're probably right. And so as we were talking about this story in the production meeting, it struck me, it's been 14 years since 9/11. And so I understand why...
We've been bombing in the Middle East for 14 years.
Yeah, effective, like 13 and a half years.
Yeah, 6 more years, we get a gold watch.
Exactly, that's going to be awesome. A nice little feather in our cap. And I mean, they would make the case that these actions we've taken have actually made us safer, despite the fact, though, I mean, they wouldn't care that we've spent well over $1 trillion, just thrown it in the gutter, buried it in the desert effectively. Thousands and thousands of Americans have died, perhaps hundreds of thousands of civilians in countries like Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria, parts of North Africa, that all of this has happened, and yet, despite the fact that all of that made us safer, we're still so fundamentally unsafe that everything we do digitally or on the telephone needs to be tracked and stored for all of time. How little progress has been made as a result of their Republican president getting to do effectively whatever he wanted around the globe, and Barack Obama following up with basically the same policies in a lot of different areas. We still are we're not truly any safer.
Right,
We deserve no rights.
Obama expanded on a lot of those policies. I mean, I didn't think that it could get worse than the Bush administration, but Obama proved that he could do more. I mean, when you have drone strikes that kill American citizens without any type of trial, you've gone further than Bush, which is pretty impressive in the worst possible way. But I think that 9/11 has been a great tool for politicians in the sense that now they get to utilize something that plays with the emotions of every American in the country as an excuse to violate our rights. And so people are afraid, right? And you have the mass media, the mainstream media kind of playing a role in that as well, continuing on with the fear-mongering. You'll have someone like John McCain on Fox News talking about how, you know, certain insurgents pose an imminent threat here in the United States when there's really no backing to that. And the media will not challenge him on it. So that's why people, you know, certain constituencies will buy into it.